Okay, just looking at the health of the hard drives and the speed of my hard drives actually on Windows Server 2012 R2 Essentials. I ran ATTO benchmark, disk benchmark against each drive. Like the solid state C drive, you get some numbers you'd expect, about 500. Okay, and I used 2 gig for length. Why? Because in LSI 9265 you get RAID caching controller artifacts going on, and okay, I accidentally clicked start apparently at some point. But anyhow, you saw some terrible numbers here on drive F where my client computer backups were actually underway. That was not a good idea to run those while client computer backups were underway. The speeds were terrible, under 30 I believe. So it's running a test again. We'll see how it does. Now here's another identical eSATA enclosure, and here's the kind of speeds we're expecting. When an array is not busy doing something else, we might end up with results a whole lot more like this. And so far it's already looking like that's the case. So why am I doing this? Because I want to see if I have an obvious bottleneck. And over here it appears my RAID controller, my LSI RAID controller, and the particular driver or firmware it's at, or the fact that it's on ESXi55 and LSI hasn't supported that for this controller, a 9265-8i. Yeah, it's an obvious problem, the speeds here, for read speeds at some sizes. So I may need to look at my RAID configuration, but it didn't change, and it was a whole lot faster on 5.1 than 5.5. So that's a worry here. But as far as the other enclosures and types, SSD is doing all right, eSATA is doing all right. Let's go to a 4 terabyte drive on a motherboard Intel port. This is on a different virtual machine, but ATTO disk bench gave us 115 and just stays there. That's pretty normal for a single spindle. All right, I'll go ahead and pause the video for a moment, let this benchmark finish up. Okay, the benchmark is finishing here. I resumed recording video, and there you go, the last bar. Are these similar? Yeah. Are they identical? No, but the drives used in these arrays are slightly different anyway, so I didn't expect identical results. I just wanted something in the right ballpark. And now they are. This array, though, on the bottom is clearly faster. Now, for my daily PC backups, will it matter for my backup window if I go to the faster drives? Probably not. The drive doesn't seem to be the real bottleneck. Windows Server is just pretty slow at doing first backups, no matter what drive speed I put it on. Now, how do we know these two SATA enclosures are on the same Intel branded motherboard port? Well, let's have a look. If we run vSphere Web Client, we can dive in and look at those drives a bit. So a couple of things to point out. Going back to Remote Desktop here, I very carefully label my drives so I know what's on them. So an external RAID enclosure here, client computer backups. vZilla itself is backing up to this external RAID array. And finally, we got 2 different drives here doing user shares and install all in the RAID array. Okay, trying to keep things straight with what's where. Now, drive T here was a temporary test. I got the serial number eSATA RAID 5 with a serial number, whereas a second RAID array is this drive F. Same kind of enclosure, but a different label on there. This one has a serial number. This one just says client computer backups. So we want to see that these 2 drives are on the same type of motherboard port, not one on an AS Media 1062 port and another on an Intel SATA port. I want another identical. So if we go to the host itself, storage, devices, we can see one RAID array right here and one primary partition with VMFS file system on it. Well, that's nice, but where is it on the storage adapters list? How will we know? Well, check it out. Devices. So Cougar Point, meaning the motherboard ports, not the AS Media slower ports. Cougar Point is right here. There's the SSD. Nothing attached to that one. There's one of the RAID arrays. It ends with that serial number we talked about. So there we have it. attached to that serial number. The next one down, attach to the other serial number, the other external SATA cable attached RAID 5 array. So that's how we determine what's attached where. Back to the machine itself. If I saw an obvious speed issue here, I would again go ahead and migrate data. We can do an in-place data migration, and we can pick different drive letters and pick and choose where things go. So this is my virtual machine we're looking at here. And we could say migrate, change data store, and be very careful and use advanced. And now we can we can exactly pick and choose what goes where. Now we'll have to remove these VTD ESXi capability to pass through some USB 3 ports. We'll have to remove that before we can do any kind of stored vMotion. And that requires a reboot to remove those, so that's unfortunate. I went and shut down the VM, then went into edit settings and removed those PCI devices so that I can actually do a stored vMotion and clean up. We want to use migrate, change data store, and it says select data store. Now, I don't want to move everything. I absolutely don't want to. That'll take really long. But I do want to move just the drive in question. So we know this drive with the serial number performs okay. If we go to advanced, we're able to point to all the drives. Which is the underperformer? This one. Right here, Mediasonic and PC backups. So all we got to do is browse to the Mediasonic that performs well. Now you'll notice provisioned and free space is hurting. So that's a showstopper. Got to clean it up first. I already know what's on there. I'm not worried about nuking it. So if we browse the files on there, there's an old version of my PC backups from my old server. Those can't make the ride from non-R2 to R2. That's a problem. So I can go ahead and just nuke that entire thing. Upper right corner, we see progress. Okay, so it finished deleting the file. These other folders you don't want to delete. There's actually a VMware knowledge base article about that basically telling you to lay off of those. Now if we go to the summary tab, we get a nice look that our space is now free. The thing is pretty much entirely evacuated. Could actually reformat if we felt like it. Not really much need to. Now back to the virtual machine. Actually, no, let's go back to storage. Not the best name, right? We know the PC backups where they currently are a little slow. So we could put the serial number in there. We could also just say something like that. So that's the slower enclosure, making it obvious that I'm now going to move the PC backups to this better one. Okay, now we're less likely to make a mistake. Right click, migrate, change data store, next, click advanced, and now give ourselves as much room as we need to see everything easily on one screen. So the two that need a tweak are these. And there you have it. Now they're both thin provisioned. Shouldn't take very long. So you can pick thin again. There's no harm in doing that. If it's already thin provisioned, there's no overhead. It's not going to take any longer. But if it is not thin provisioned already, it'll take a really long time. Now, I only have, I think about a terabyte of this drive used. It's still going to take quite a while, probably overnight, to migrate from one to another. But the nice thing is, even while that's going on, we can use the server. So here's a nice summary screen telling us when we're done, we're going to end up with a C drive on the run core, solid state drive, and these backups on these external this external RAID 5, and then finally some other hard disks on LSI RAID controller drives. Click Finish, and off it goes with relocating the virtual machine. The virtual machine is powered on, and it's going to perform a little bit worse, but that's okay. At least I'm able to do stuff with it, like continue with backups. And go ahead and do that. Kick off a backup and let her rip. So even while this machine is doing drive migration, we can now initiate a backup. And as that cruises along, we could take a look at performance, which I find kind of fun. Click on ESXi, click on Monitor Performance, and we can see I've been doing a lot to this machine as it backed up a huge machine overnight. Sort of a pulsing effect on the disk here. But how about a live real-time view? So let's go to real-time. Now we got to look at a spike, obviously, in disk activity that we just kicked off. As it does a migration from one data store to another. It's saying 26%. It's inaccurate. You'll get a number and then it'll sit there for many hours. So, okay, hopefully you found this look at drive migration helpful. Thank you for watching and for visiting tickertry.com.